Welcome to the Sample Chapter Podcast, the show where authors read a sample chapter from one of their books. Here's your host, Jason A. Meiske.
Hey, Sample Chapter listeners, it's Jason, and welcome to episode 204 of the Sample Chapter Podcast. Hey, this week we have another wonderful guest by the name of Liz Alterman. Liz has a few books out so far, and one of the unique things about her that's something I can relate to is each of these books are in different genres, and I find that really cool. You know, she's writing what is appealing to her at that time. You're going to be hearing today from her young adult novel, He'll Be Waiting, and it's the prose in that is so incredibly descriptive. It's going to captivate the reader as they hear it, or in this case today, it's going to captivate you, the listener. It definitely grabbed my attention as she was going through there. Just wait until you hear the description of the psychologist, and you'll understand what clink, clink, clink means. Listen for that when it comes up. Another one of the cool things we're going to be discussing with Liz is learning one of the other genres, which is domestic suspense. What is that? You know, that's going to be really cool. You're going to hear about that. How she began her writing career, discovering and following the story idea, discovering writing blind spots and what are they, and what she does to stick to her writing discipline. All that and so much more coming up here in just a few moments, so you want to stay tuned for that. Meanwhile, I do want to, again, I'm going to welcome everybody to the show, episode 204. Last time I mentioned that I will be attending an author book signing. I'll be participating in that book signing, and I have a little more information for you all. If you are able to attend, I will be at Sedalia, Missouri, which is home of the State Fair, the Missouri State Fair. I'll be at Reader's World there with members of the writers group that I'm a part of. So I'm, even though I'm looking forward to potentially meeting some fans and, selling some books and talking about my books, I'm really looking forward to getting a chance to see my friends with the writers group. We don't get to connect like we used to. So, more than anything, I'm really looking forward to that. But by all means, on April 2nd, if you can make it to Reader's World in Sedalia, make sure you come by. Stop by, say hi. I've got a banner. It's going to be up. Table runner. So you're going to know it's me. I stand out a little bit now. And I'll have all of my books available from 9 Mile Bridge, A Novel Idea, and, of course, my latest one, Bandit Rising, book 1 of the Bandit series. So those will be available for you. And just stop by and say hi. And, of course, if you are an author and you've got a book available, then make sure you tell me, hey, you're interested in maybe coming on the show sometime, and I would love to sit and chat with you. Now, ironically, speaking of writing, my own writing has been slow, but doubly ironically to that, I've been writing a lot of notes about Bandit 2, which is really cool, and that's going to be... I'm looking forward to making some time to sit down and really just kind of let loose. I'm at that mode right now where I'm so anxious to make the time to write that I know that whenever I do, I'm going to be putting down some serious words for a while. So I'm looking forward to that coming up soon. Segue, of course, as you all know, I do all of my writing in Scrivener. It's my favorite writing software, and I do all of it there. I have several stories saved in Scrivener right now. It's all loaded up on a cloud service. I use Dropbox, and it's such an incredible software, one that I think you're going to love if you try it out. You won't believe how handy some of the features in Scrivener, but it's got some great stuff, and I invite you to listen to this advertisement to learn how you can save 20% on the regular desktop version. Jason here. Hey, I wanted to take a moment and tell you about my favorite writing tool, Scrivener. Now, I know you've heard about Scrivener because their writing software has been embraced by hundreds of thousands of other writers like you and I, from the novice to best-selling novelists. The reason we all use it is because of Scrivener's core concept to bring all the writing tools you use together in a single application. And with tools like automatic backup, character maps, project goals, and let's not forget that amazing corkboard, you can see why I use Scrivener every day. As a bonus for Sample Chapter Podcast listeners, use code CHAPTER for 20% off your desktop version. Scrivener writing software, built by writers for writers. Yeah, thank you once again to Scrivener, a longtime sponsor of the show. I also want to thank Writer's Block Coffee for being an affiliate with the show. And as an affiliate, that means if you click on the link and you go in and you decide to purchase some coffee, then the show gets a little bit of something. But you got a whole lot to choose from. You can order once, or you can set up a monthly auto ship with Writer's Block Coffee. They have 3 incredible flavors: the Deadline Dark, the Whiskey Barrel Aged Coffee, which that's my favorite blend, and there is also the Writer's Block Signature Blend. Choose one, choose them all. You're going to love them all just as much as I do. So again, click that link in the show notes so you can go in there and check it out. It's some really good stuff. And hey, make sure while you're there, check out their spoon. It's a bag clip with a spoon on the end. Perfect. I have one already. I'm going to order another one for my office. And it is just a perfect little spoon for getting coffee. Have you ever noticed? I don't know. I'm getting off on a tangent now. Have you all ever noticed that coffee spoons are little bitty things, and you got to reach way down in the bucket? Well, Writer's Block Coffee have these bag clip spoons that are, I don't know, 5-6 inches long, and it makes it really easy to get down into the bottom of the bag. I love it. Absolutely love that thing. Who knew I would really have a thing for a spoon? But anyway, click the link in the show notes to get on over and check out Writer's Block Coffee. Hey, I also want to thank my friends at popgoestheculture.com, network home to about half a dozen other shows, all of them incredible and all of them pop culture related. Whether you are looking for comic book news, movie news, celebrity gossip, wrestling, even cartoons. Lots of throwbacks to the 80s and 90s. Really, really cool stuff. Click that link in the show notes so you can get on over and check out all of the great shows at popgoestheculture.com. Well, I think that's going to be it for me for today. Without further ado, let's hop on over to our interview with our guest, Liz Alterman. Hello, Sample Chapter listeners. Hey, welcome back. This is another exciting episode. And, I say that all the time, that I'm excited and everything, but I genuinely am, and today is no exception. Today we are speaking with Liz Alterman. Liz's work can be found in the New York Times, the Washington Post, Parents McSweeney's Internet Tendency, and many other publications. She is the author of a young adult novel, He'll Be Waiting, a memoir, Sad Sacked, which is a domestic suspense novel, and the upcoming Perfect Neighborhood. Liz lives in New Jersey with her husband and 3 sons. When she isn't writing, she spends most days reading, microwaving the same cup of coffee, and looking up synonyms. Welcome to the show, Liz.
Thanks, Jason. Thank you so much for having me.
It is my pleasure. I'm so excited to have you here. So how have you been? Has the year been good to you so far?
Yes, so far so good. I'm currently working on a novel that also would fall in the domestic suspense category. So, some days are better than others, more productive, and then there's always a lull. So on those days, I try to do some, baking or something to clear my head and hope the ideas resurface when I get back to my laptop.
Fantastic. So let's talk about that title, domestic suspense. What is that? How do you define that?
I think of it as, maybe things that are happening in a small town, possibly a suburb, sort of playing on the notion of not really knowing what goes on behind closed doors. things might look perfect on the surface, but you never really know what's going on beneath. So
Mm.
that's my forthcoming novel, The Perfect Neighborhood, will be out in July. And, that sort of addresses those topics. And the work I'm currently doing, and hoping that maybe that'll be out in the world in a year or two, that sort of looks at the same thing, kind of, how well do you know your neighbors? How safe is your neighborhood? Just sort of those quirks that I think, people might wonder about, but this kind of explores that on a deeper level.
Wow. It's always fascinating for me. I've got 200 episodes now of the show, and it's always interesting to hear the what's driving your writing, and to hear somebody's like, oh well, I was walking the dog and I saw this thing happening and it just got me thinking about this. And then here we are talking, you're describing the domestic suspense. And again, that's just another one of those things, like, how many times do we sit in our home and look out the window and see something that just piques our interest, like, oh yeah, there goes the Johnsons again. What are they up to? And it's like,
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, how perfect to just take that and run with it.
Right. And I have to say, I've lived in suburbs almost my entire life. So I feel like I'm familiar with the ins and outs, for better or worse. So it's kind of like I'm immersed in that world. So for me, I guess you could say it's almost easier than if I were to say imagine. I have such admiration for sci-fi or fantasy writers who are just, creating a whole world out of nothing. And so I feel like I have this backdrop around me and some interesting characters that I've met over the years. So it gives me a lot of fodder.
Fantastic. Do you find yourself using a lot of that for the characters? Like, anybody real where they go, oh, is that me?
Not necessarily yet. I think it's kind of, some are more extreme versions, but certainly, different things I think that parents are faced with today, like the competition among their children, who's in honors this, who's in honors that, or, who's a good parent, like sort of that judgment about among parents of, or who's your babysitter, or what's, just that kind of different, like, oh look, they're renovating their home, and how happy is that marriage, those kinds of things that I sort of packed into The Perfect Neighborhood.
Yeah. Okay. That's fantastic though. And it sounds incredible. And
Oh,
that's,
thank
yeah, The
you.
Perfect Neighborhood, that's coming out in July. So you're going to have to let us know when that is ready so that way we can help share the word for you.
Oh, thank you, I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Now, this is Perfect Neighborhood is kind of different from what you've written in the past. Tell us about your other books.
Oh, sure. Thank you for asking. Well, I guess, just to sort of go back to the beginning, the first longer piece that I wrote was a memoir, and it really chronicles the period that my husband and I lost our jobs within 6 weeks of each other. So I tried to use humor to kind of diffuse what was a difficult situation for not just for our family, we have 3 children, but also for our marriage, because we were sort of coming at job loss from different angles. I was kind of panicked, whereas my husband, who had been in his position for 18 years, sort of viewed it as a relief. He hadn't been that happy in that role for a long time, but he had felt it was secure. So he stayed longer than maybe he necessarily wanted to. So
Mm.
when he was let go, he sort of viewed it as, like, first of all, a break. And then secondly, the push that he might have needed to go find something else. But as time was passing and he wasn't really looking for a job, and then I lost my job, sort of tensions mounted. So I wrote that story in, I guess I took some classes, which I would say for any writer is so helpful. I had a wonderful instructor and wonderful peer writers in that group who provided feedback that really kept me going with the book. And then I got an agent, and I was sure I was on my way. And she was a wonderful agent, but unfortunately we just couldn't sell it. I bumped up a lot of people saying, editors saying you're not famous, you don't have a platform, and of course, it would kill me every time a Real Housewife memoir comes out to see, and certainly I'm not in a position to hit Bravo, but so it was definitely frustrating. And so I kind of shelved that memoir for a while. And then a friend of mine said, have you considered Audible's pitch portal where you can pitch directly an idea? And so I sent the memoir, the manuscript through their pitch portal. And within about a month, I heard back from an editor, and the story resonated with her. And so they made me an offer, and I gladly accepted. And then, so that came out last November. And so that's on audio only. But that it was an exciting thing to finally see. Like, I think I had started it maybe in 2015. So to have it come out in 2021 was, to see it to fruition was an exciting moment for me.
Yeah, and that's a sad sack.
Exactly. Exactly. And then I guess before that I had written, or I guess I had written Sad Sacked first, but seeing that it really wasn't going anywhere for quite a while, I had an idea for a young adult thriller, which is what I'll be reading from today. And that's called He'll Be Waiting. And so I decided, perhaps the market was more hospitable to a young adult thriller. So I wrote that, and then I worked with a different agent who, again, tried her best and was optimistic that it would be a quick sale. And long story short, it was not. And so I began pursuing indie presses for that one. And I found one, Between the Lines, they're called. And they were just wonderful to work with. They made me an offer, and they've been so supportive and lovely throughout the entire journey, from editing to cover selection to marketing. I just feel like they've really been champions of authors. And so that's been a great experience.
Oh yeah, my gosh. And it's wonderful to have a support system like that.
Absolutely.
So now you said you took some classes. Um do you have other people around? Like, do you have a writing group or anybody, or do you just kind of write on your own now?
I was taking some classes, and before the pandemic, I was in a writing group where we would try to meet once a week and just, kind of get together and share pages. But since COVID, it's definitely been a little bit more difficult. And I guess up until about December, I was part of a writer's workshop, and we met online. And I feel it's really helpful, because for me especially, it keeps me accountable, knowing whether we're going to share 5 pages, 8 pages, 10 pages. I think without those deadlines, I can, tend to be a little loose with myself, like, oh, you'll get it done. And then next thing, a week passes and I haven't gotten anything done. So it's very good for accountability. And it's also great. I love hearing other writers' work. Even I've been in some where people are not writing in the same genre. They might be writing a middle school fantasy, or they're writing auto fiction about an experience they had working in another country. And but we're all able to give each other feedback that hopefully helps stay on track, and just kind of point out those blind spots that a writer may have when they're writing
Mhm.
on their own. So I find it so helpful.
I agree completely. I've also been part of a writing group locally here for a number of years, and then after COVID, my schedule completely changed. So I haven't been able to meet with them, and they just started recently going back to in person, and they were doing virtual ones, but I couldn't make it, and
Right.
I miss that group so much because there's such a wide variety of us there, script writers, young adult, other thrillers, even some horror and different things, but everybody always has something valuable to add,
Exactly.
whatever it is. And it's, because it's out of the box thoughts of that. If you're just talking to other thriller writers, for instance, then we all have kind of the same thought process, but somebody who's writing a young adult will be like, well, why don't you just do this, and you're like, wait, that's a good idea. Go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah, it really opens your mind to new avenues.
Absolutely. So now, is writing something you've always aspired to? Is this something you've always done, or is this just kind of came about uh, because of Sad Sack of the events for that?
Oh, well, thank you. I always wanted to be a writer. I grew up, my mom would always read to me as a child. And so I would say she really fostered that love of reading. And, I think just going back to my childhood, reading Judy Blume or Paula Danziger, I like whenever I would go to the library as part of our school, like other kids would look forward to gym or recess. I just wanted to go to the library. So I think that was something I always wanted to do. And it was funny so I have three children. And when I had my oldest, I took a little time off from work. And I just started having, I guess the whole world of motherhood and parenting was very eye opening to me. Just, even small things like people kind of competing about like who had the better diaper bag or, what activities you had your kids in. And so I felt like it was giving me material that I had not expected. And that was funny at the time, my husband was saying, oh, you should start a blog. And this was in 2002. And I said, me not being very technical, me starting a blog would be like, me building a rocket and trying to get to the moon. So I appreciated his thoughts, but I wasn't ready to try it. And then, fast forward a decade when we lose our jobs. And I was I guess I started a blog then, mainly to keep kind of as like a diary of my thoughts and just, to kind of chronicle, like, I can't believe that we're out of work at the same time. And then we had some crazy experiences where we would have a job interview and we'd get there and the interviewer would have forgotten we were coming, or we'd go
Oh,
through all of these rounds and then hear, oh, sorry, we forgot to email you that we filled that position. And just it was just kind of bumping up against all of those things to try to write it all down and to try to do it with humor, I think really kept me sane during that period. So, and then I guess as I put the blog together, um, I was working as a freelance writer. And one of the assignments I got was to interview the owner of a local writer's school, which is where I ended up taking the writing workshops. And sort of just as a throwaway question, I said to her, so what's your most popular course? What do people take? And she said, believe it or not, memoir writing. People, especially older adults, feel they have a lifetime of information and interesting experiences, and they want to write those down, whether it's to publish or to pass on to family members. And so, it kind of took me back, and I thought, wait a minute, could I turn that blog into a memoir of my own? And at the time, being out of work or just sort of freelancing, I didn't have that much on my plate. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to take this class and see how it goes. And it was a wonderful experience. And I think writing, it sort of showed me that I could write something longer as opposed to maybe a short story, which I think I had always found very daunting. The thought of, oh my gosh, 90,000 words, like who can do that? Who's got that discipline? But
yeah, it's funny you say that. My wife and I just discussed a few nights ago. We're going to get some notebooks and just start writing down some of our memories of
oh,
from
that's
the
great.
past 25 years, and just start chronicling some things for the kids. We used to have notebooks that we would record things that the kids did,
Oh,
funny
yes.
things that they did, and then you get busy and it just kind of fell aside. And we thought, yeah, we should go back and just start doing that for us, and things that we remember, things that the kids will find fascinating, later in life, and we'll
Oh,
leave that
definitely.
for them. So, and it seems like, well, hearing you talk about it and then me thinking about it myself, it seems to be a very therapeutic kind of thing to do.
It really is. I think so. I think also too, once you put it down on paper, I feel like it almost is cleansing. It's out of your head, it's somewhere else. It's you're not carrying it the way that you necessarily were before you wrote it down.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I like that.
Oh,
What
thanks.
what has been the most difficult part of writing for you?
I think the discipline, I think the internet is probably, it's like you're a blessing and a curse because while it's there and, I can look up, like, I guess in the perfect neighborhood, a child goes missing. And so I was able to sort of Google and find different things that law enforcement does when a child first goes missing. And to have that research at my fingertips was just invaluable. And also to see other writers, to meet other writers through, say, Twitter or Instagram is really gratifying. Like to watch other people, struggle and then attain success, I find really inspiring. There's that commiseration and celebration, and I've met some really wonderful writers through Twitter, and I love that. But at the same time, I feel like when the going gets hard, it's very easy to click away and open a window, and next thing I'm ordering things for my kids from Amazon, or I'm sending an email to a friend, and next thing 45 minutes have gone by and I still have a sentence that's unfinished. And I think in the old days, before the internet, you would just kind of maybe stare out a window or take a walk around your house. And so I think the internet is probably my biggest challenge, and just that self-discipline to say, like, I'm just going to focus for 1 hour at least.
Well said. I can totally relate. So, so you have all these influences around you, and memoirs and things you can fall back to. So, how do you go about picking which one do you want to write next, or is there one that just kind of stands out that okay, this is the one that's bugging me the most, and I want to follow that?
Oh, well, thanks for asking. That's a great question. I feel like when I wrote The Perfect Neighborhood, I woke up with the idea for it. And it's kind of funny because I told my husband the idea and he said to me, yeah, I don't think that's going to work. I would just, maybe shelve it and see if another idea comes up. And so I just kept waiting and seeing if something else would come to me. And meanwhile, in the background, in my mind, I could almost feel the characters like moving and talking. And so finally, after 6 months of waiting for a new idea that never came, I sat down and I just started typing, and just, not even in order, but just kind of jotting down ideas of maybe the arc of the story. And before I knew it, I had about 6,000 words. And I felt like, okay, if this is just this much writing and ideas, like there's something here, you have to go with it. And so that was what kind of spurred me to say, okay, I'm going to commit to this project and get started in earnest. And so I did.
Oh, fantastic. So the book we're hearing from today, He'll Be Waiting. This is young adult, and it fascinates me. You've got a memoir, young adult, and then the the domestic suspense. You're kind of writing wherever you feel led. It sounds like, which
Yes.
I find that amazing, and I love when authors can do that. I'm kind of been doing the same thing myself lately. Just like,
Oh,
oh,
that's
this one's
great.
paranormal, this one's science fiction, and this one's. But what was the decision for you that made you think young adult, or was there a decision? Was it something halfway through where you realized, oh, this is young adult?
Thanks for asking. I think I sort of thought, well, as I mentioned, I have children and they are unfortunately reluctant readers. It's very hard
Mhm.
to get them, if something doesn't hook them within the first couple of pages, they kind of abandon it. So I was thinking, okay, what if I wrote something and what if I tried to use them as almost a test audience? Like I'll give them pages at a time, and if they're willing to keep going, then I'm going to be willing to keep writing and see just how far we get. So, sometimes they were a little reluctant as I took their devices away to say, okay, here's 5 pages. Let me know what you think. And my oldest son is a little critical. Like he would say, Ma, teenagers don't talk like that. Nobody would say that. And so I felt like it was great to kind of have an in-house editor keeping me honest about dialogue. So that was nice. And so I guess it was just sort of an idea that I had. And I think also, because I had had such hopes for the memoir and it didn't sell, I thought, okay, maybe young adult might be an easier way to break in, that you don't necessarily need to come to it with a huge platform or be a celebrity or be known to have success in that market. So I had an idea and I thought, okay, why not give this one a shot?
Fantastic. Yeah, and it sounds amazing. I love the catchphrase on there. There are no safe spaces. That's already just kind of like, whoa. Between that and the cover, it definitely begs to be picked up to say, okay, what is this?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was very grateful because the publisher really, they listened to my ideas, and I feel like I initially gave them too many, like almost cluttering the cover. And the designer came back with this and said, "Well, what do you think about this?" And right away, I thought, "Ooh, that's eye catching and different, and not nearly as cluttered as what I was giving her." So I give them all the credit for coming up with that.
But it's fantastic and definitely eye catching. So,
Oh, thank you.
so you have Perfect Neighborhood coming out in July, and then you're working on another domestic suspense. You said, or is
I
that
am.
okay?
Yes, exactly. So I'm hoping, I'd like to think I'm maybe 3/4 of the way finished. And
Oh,
then when it's done, I'll go back and do a major edit. And maybe then I'll tap my beta readers and ask, if they don't mind taking a look and letting me know what works and what doesn't.
fantastic. Well, this has been wonderful. I mean, there's just so much good stuff here to dive into, and
Oh, thank
oh
you.
man, listeners, y'all have got to click the links in the show notes. So, what are these links? Where can people find and follow you?
Oh, thank you for asking. On Twitter, I'm just pretty basic at Liz Alterman, and same with Instagram at Liz Alterman. And then my website is lizalterman.com.
Wonderful. And yep, absolutely. I will definitely have those links in the show notes so everybody can go and click there and know right where to go. And is there like a sign up for when your books come out to get notified?
Oh, thank you. I do have a Google form. I could send it to you. I was still kind of toying with, I've only sent one newsletter so far. So I feel like I don't want to overwhelm anybody with that, but I could definitely send you the link. And then I think right now there's a giveaway, a Goodreads giveaway for The Perfect Neighborhood. And I think we'll be doing another one in April. So I'd be happy to send you that link, and then the link to the newsletter sign up as well.
Okay, yeah, I'll make sure and put those links on there for your Goodreads and then for your Amazon page too, because that's always a good place. That and I don't. It's amazing when I talk to other people, not writers, they don't realize that yeah, if you hit that follow button on Amazon or Goodreads or whatever, they get notified when a new book is coming out, and
Exactly.
so I don't have a form on my website either saying, yeah, my new book's coming out. It's like, but if you go to Amazon or if you go to Goodreads or BookBub, you're gonna get notified there. So, and that's always a good way. So, I always encourage people to check out one or all three of those places as well.
Yes, that's great too.
So, all right. Well, Liz, this has been fantastic, and
Thank you.
I wish you all the best with Perfect
Oh,
Neighborhood, and I cannot wait to hear more from He'll Be Waiting. Is there any kind of setup we need for this?
I was thinking about just starting on chapter one, and if that's okay. And I was
Yeah,
going to I'll give you the blurb from the back of the book, which I think kind of sums up where we're going, if that's okay.
yeah.
Okay, so as you mentioned, the tagline is "There are no safe spaces." When Tess Porter agrees to pick up her boyfriend's college pal at the airport on a snowy December night, she has no idea she's about to embark on the most dangerous ride of her life. 2 days later, the 17-year-old wakes up in a hospital with broken bones, unable to remember how she got there. Her parents are acting strange, and neither her boyfriend James nor her best friend Izzy have visited. As she struggles to physically recover, Tess wrestles with haunting questions. What happened? Will her memory ever return? And what if she's better off not recalling any of it?
Oh my goodness. All right. See, my to be read file just grows and grows every week because of this show, and yeah, that's gonna have to go on there as well. So,
Oh, Jason, thank you. I'd be happy to send you a copy.
oh, great, thank you, I appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, time for me to step aside with my writer's block coffee and enjoy this sample chapter from our guest, Liz Alterman, with "He'll Be Waiting."
Thank you. Chapter 1: The Secrets We Keep from Ourselves. December 18th. I can handle the broken bones, the bruises, the bald patches, all of it. But there's one thing that's bothering me more than absolutely everything else combined. I can't remember the last time I saw James. We'd had plans for the night I ended up here, in this hospital bed, in a trauma center miles from my home, in the middle of a snowstorm. Big plans. That was 2 days ago. I woke up this afternoon feeling as if I'd been trampled by circus elephants, with no idea where I was and no memory of seeing him. No clue what happened on the night I'd been looking forward to for nearly 4 months. It's crazy and terrifying. At first, I hoped I was trapped in one of those dreams where you try your hardest to wake up by telling yourself you're still asleep and everything is fine. Everything seemed so bizarre and unfamiliar. I was sure I'd roll over in my bed, James beside me as I'd planned, plastic glow-in-the-dark stars arranged in madcap constellations on my ceiling. I tried to speak, scream, and jolt myself awake, but I could only gasp. The moment I lifted my right arm, the one not in a cast, to touch my head, because honestly, that hurt the absolute worst, Mom shrieked, "Tess, don't," and rushed over. When she lowered my hand back down to the bed, I felt it, and I had a terrible thought. I'm not dreaming. This is real. I turned from her and toward the window. It was dark outside. I caught a glimpse of myself in the reflection and shut my eyes. Bandages cover most of my head. I look like a last-minute Halloween zombie costume. Too bad that holiday is long over. It's the week before Christmas, and at 17, I'm too old to trick or treat anyway. Still, I can't help feeling like I'm starring in my own personal horror show. When I first opened my eyes, I saw Mom and Dad pacing opposite sides of the hospital bed, a weird, worried march that I assumed was somehow part of my nightmare. What is this? What's happening? I blinked a dozen times as if that would change the scenery. "Oh, Tess, thank God you're awake," Mom said after making sure I didn't mess with my bandages. "It's all going to be okay, honey. We're right here." She squeezed my right hand in hers. I had the oddest reaction, complete revulsion. If forming each sentence didn't feel as impossible as suddenly speaking fluent Mandarin, I'd have said, "Leave me alone." Where did that come from? I tried to move my left leg, bundled in a giant white plaster cast. It matched my left arm. Even something as simple as attempting to wiggle my toes sent sharp needles shooting through my body. "You're in the hospital, Tess." She paused and turned toward Dad as if for guidance or confirmation that she should continue talking. He looked at me, his eyes wet and red-rimmed as a basset hound's. Mom kept staring at him as if willing him to speak. He didn't. "There's been an accident, a bad accident," she said. Deep lines formed a tiny number 11, creasing the spot between her eyes. "You don't remember?" I shook my head, causing a throbbing, stabbing pain between my ears. What accident? What happened to me? Panic rose in my chest. I wanted to scream, but my words came out like a whimper as I grew more anxious by the moment. Dad's eyes finally met Mom's, and I saw a flash of anger in them before he turned back to me. "We're still piecing it together," he said, in the tone he uses when he tries not to lose his patience. After a hint of a sad, lips together smile, he added, "The main thing is, Tess, in time, you're going to be all right." Piecing what together? What happened? Why were they making me repeat myself when I was already so weak and exhausted from searching my mind for memories, images of what could have landed me here, like Humpty Dumpty after the fall. Where's James? Is he here too? What's going on? Just tell me. With each passing second, I felt myself spiraling downward, morphing into a mad woman, a feral cat. If I had the strength, I'd have tried to make a run for it, but with a broken leg, how far could I get? Ah, I thought I heard some chatting going on in here. A woman appeared in the doorway wearing a crisp blouse as white as her hair and a red pleated skirt. I don't know how long she'd been standing there. Gold bangle bracelets jingled on each wrist. Their gentle clink, clink, clink grew louder as she walked toward me. I'm Lydia, the psychologist assigned to your case. She extended her hand. Clink, clink, clink. I have a case? I stared at her, wishing she'd explain everything without me having to ask. Again, Mom looked at Dad. She opened and closed her mouth. What am I doing here? I asked, wanting to believe that this woman, a total stranger, might hold the key that would unlock my memory simply because she wore a hospital badge and carried an official-looking folder. Well, Tess, may I call you Tess? She smiled, the corners of her eyes crinkling like the skirt pleats. I nodded, and the throbbing returned. You've suffered an event that's left you with some significant fractures. And from what I just overheard, and from what your doctors suspect, you've most likely sustained a traumatic brain injury as well, she continued. Do you know what that is? She stared at me, waiting for my response, her eyes as turquoise as the Caribbean. I pictured my friends and classmates, their vacation photos peppering my Instagram feed. Shots of them leaping into the sea, huge smiles, arms and legs flung out like starfish. James's eyes are a much darker blue, almost navy, like the ocean, bottomless, with a strong current that pulls you in deeper until you're swimming inside them and never want to be anywhere else. I thought about James's face, the dimple in his chin, those eyes, the ones I picture when I can't fall asleep. The left has a tiny black freckle near the very bottom of the blue outer ring. I could hear his voice, the way he smiles and says, "That's funny," but doesn't actually laugh at a joke. I wondered where he was, what he was doing. This has become my default pastime since he left for college. Lost in thought, I didn't realize Lydia was still expecting an answer. Tess, do you know what a traumatic brain injury is? She repeated. Can you recall what happened to you? No and no. I shook my head gently to avoid the throbbing. Well, sometimes when a situation is particularly jarring or painful, our mind plays a little trick on us by withholding information. It's sort of like a secret your brain decides to keep, to hold back, because it thinks you're not ready to recall it. I believe that's what you may be experiencing. How is that possible? How could I lose or block out a whole chunk of time? I've been thinking about her words, trying to force them to make sense for the past few minutes, minutes that crawl by like hours, while she and Mom and Dad stare at me with what? Pity? Concern? Fear? I scroll through the things I can remember, calling up scenes like I'm flicking past photos on my phone's camera roll. Images from both the distant and recent past are still there. Birthdays, crabbing with my grandfather during summer vacations, the ending of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I know we have a velvety black cat named Daffy who has a love-hate relationship with our Roomba. All of that's stored as it's always been. It's the events of a single night that I need to get back. That, and I want to know where James is. Did he get home from school okay? Why isn't he here with me? Lydia, is that her name? Looks at Mom and Dad, then back at me, offering us all another forced smile. I know at the moment it's all very frightening, Tess. You've suffered a shock, but I'm sure many, if not all of your memories will return to you in time, when your mind and body are ready. We're going to work together, all of us, to make sense of this. She places her hand on my good arm, clink, 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 and motions for Mom and Dad to step out into the hallway with her. Be right back, Mom says. Her hand shakes as she brings it to her mouth to blow me a kiss. I watch them from my bed, heads bent toward one another, necks craning, whispering. What were they saying? Something about me, obviously. I hear my name murmured. What are they keeping from me? And what are the secrets I'm hiding from myself? We're going to work together. That's what Lydia said. That sounds nice in theory, but the overwhelming feeling I can't seem to shake is that from here on out, I'm on my own.
Oh my goodness. All right, that was Liz Alterman reading a sample chapter from her young adult novel, He'll Be Waiting. That book and all of her books are available. You can click the link in the show notes for Liz's website and all of her social media. Don't forget to follow her so that you find out when that next book is coming out, which is real soon. And give her a follow. Don't forget to also click the links for our sponsors, affiliates, and podcast friends alike. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for the Sample Chapter Podcast so that you don't miss that next time when I'm back with a new author, a new book, and a brand new sample chapter. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you again real soon.